When a cartoon has gone on for long enough, it's going to at some point encounter some changes in its animation style. And when we've become used to a show looking a certain way for a long time, it looking different, even if it's just for one episode, is notable. There are two recent SpongeBob episodes that took a drastically different approach to their art style. Why do these episodes have different art styles? Did their art styles work with their stories? And what do these alternate art style episodes mean for SpongeBob as a whole? Chapter 1. A Fish Called Sandy. A Fish Called Sandy is an episode defined by one aspect. It looks like Season 1. While obviously it doesn't look literally exactly like Season 1, still being a modern animated HD episode, the episode pulls from some of the color, stylistic, and character design choices that invoke the feeling of Season 1. But why this episode? What is it about this episode, this particular story, that made it the episode that warranted this kind of art style? So the story of A Fish Called Sandy revolves around Sandy getting some fish DNA from Fred the background fish so that she can breathe underwater and feel the ocean the way that SpongeBob does, with that eventually backfiring when she turns into some kind of fish monster. That's a great story that could really only be told in this universe with these characters. Some of the best Sandy-focused episodes are the ones that revolve on how she feels about being an outsider. Think Texas. In showcasing that she has this desire to be one with the fishfolk, it teaches us that her status as an outsider is something that is difficult for her to reckon with. It also teaches the lesson that sometimes there are things we just can't change no matter how hard we try. And if we do try to change something that is so fundamentally against nature, we can sometimes end up hurting ourselves, as represented through the monster fish. Now, you'll notice that none of my praises of the episode just now had anything to do with the art style, and that's because the art style and the story have nothing to do with each other. In fact, there are a lot of elements in Fish Called Sandy that are distinctly modern SpongeBob, from the more advanced science fiction science that Sandy takes part in, to it literally ending with a "my leg" joke. Like Fred turns into a werewolf and goes, "my legs," but that's not how the "my leg" gag worked in Season 1. Back then, a "my leg" line was always quick and not explicitly focused on, which, by the way, if you want to hear more about how modern SpongeBob ruined "my leg," check out this video right here. There are a few moments in the episode that directly reference Season 1 episodes, but I don't think these references alone justify an entire art style change. Perhaps the reason for the art style change is because since Sandy is becoming a sea creature, she's living through all the things that SpongeBob lived through in Season 1? But that feels like kind of a stretch. Maybe if the plot directly involved her living through multiple Season 1 episodes rather than just these loose references, that would have made the art style more justified. But does any of this matter? Well, one part of me says yes, an art style should not be an arbitrary choice. The medium in which you tell the story is, in a way, a part of your story. SpongeBob is 2D animated because that is the medium of storytelling that best works with the kind of stories that the show wants to tell, and Season 1 looked the way it did because of the specific art direction that the artists and animators followed to tell the stories that Season 1 contained. And these modern Season 15 to 16 episodes look the way they do so that the artists and animators can tell these new stories. If A Fish Called Sandy is arbitrarily taking an art style just for the sake of winning some internet points from the sponge boomers, then that's an inherent problem with how the episode is portrayed. On the other hand, as long as the episode's story was good and its art style didn't harm that story, and that art style being different got more attention on this good episode and thus gave it more viewers, wouldn't that be a net positive? I've considered both sides of this perspective, and I'm still gonna say that I think that they shouldn't have done this art style if the story didn't reflect it. Now, this is not to say that an episode that looks like Season 1 shouldn't exist, totally should, and this is not to say that there shouldn't have been an episode where Sandy becomes a fish. It's just, I don't think those things go together, and because those things don't go together, the episode feels flawed. Still a good episode, the story's really strong, the art style's really beautiful, but those things just didn't mesh, and I believe that all elements of a particular work of art should work together in order to best succeed. Chapter 2. Go Fetch. Go Fetch is a 6-minute short episode that is 3D animated. What sets this apart from other 3D animated SpongeBob media, like some of the movies and Camp Coral, is that this is a 3D animated episode of the main show. This fact alone has made some nervous. Is SpongeBob trying to subtly normalize 3D animation in the main show so that they can fully step away from 2D animation? If you ask me, no. I don't think that for one moment. A part of why SpongeBob can stay successful is because of how easily recognizable it is as SpongeBob, and the way it's animated is a major part of that. And losing that would cost them much more than whatever they would save by ditching 2D animation. Also, in examining why Go Fetch is animated the way it is, I really do think that the primary reason that the episode is animated in 3D is just because this particular story was more suited to this medium. So the story of Go Fetch revolves around SpongeBob trying to get back Gary's first ball. The lesson of the episode is to not get too attached to objects you find sentimental, with the monsters that SpongeBob deals with representing the dangers of not letting go. The episode ends with Gary giving up the ball to the anglerfish that had been chasing them, and them vowing to make new memories with a new ball, which they then lose immediately, further teaching the lesson that even stuff you make new memories with can also get lost. The point is that it's the memories that matter. This is the perfect kind of story for a 6-minute short. With the quick couple of lines and the flashback at the beginning, we are given enough context to care about the action sequence that follows. So why do I think 3D animation was necessary to tell this story? First off, this art style really works well with Gary as this adorable little pet, in a way that I don't think 2D animation would have communicated as well. In SpongeBob, Gary is often portrayed closer to a person than an animal at times. Take, for example, an episode like Gary Takes a Bath, where, while that episode revolves around a pet-centered narrative, Gary is often portrayed at a similar intellectual level to SpongeBob. Like, look at this shot. Go Fetch, on the other hand, does not require this side of Gary to tell the story, and fully leans into Gary as a pet, and the 3D animation supports this. Also, look how cute he is! Another reason for the 3D animation is the way in which SpongeBob moves through the environment away from these monsters. Now, 2D animation is perfectly capable of producing a good action sequence, but the way in which SpongeBob flows through this trench, the way that the monsters move against him, and some of the objects in the environment, such as these underwater mines, are all improved by the kind of animation employed. So if you look at Go Fetch critically, you can see that the change in animation was simply due to it being the best way to tell that story, similar to something like the Christmas and Halloween specials that were done in stop motion to enhance their holiday feeling. But it's not the same as something like A Fish Called Sandy, where its art style did not have much to do with its story at all, which makes me think that the only reason for the art style change in Fish Called Sandy was because behind the scenes they thought it would bring the episode more attention. Now, while I do believe that the main reason Go Fetch was animated this way is because it was the best way to tell this story, that doesn't mean that there may not be some behind the scenes encouragement to promote 3D animation in the minds of the SpongeBob audience. While I am sure the main series will never go fully into 3D animation, it's clear that the movies have, and they've been really steering hard in the SpongeBob movies lately. And while Camp Coral didn't work out so well, that doesn't mean they won't try another spin-off in a 3D art style. But why are people bothered by this? I mean, as I've just demonstrated, there are reasons to tell a story with 3D animation and 2D animation, depending on what kind of story it is. Well, the issue isn't the medium itself. The issue lies in money! Chapter 3, The Animation Medium Conundrum. So, I want to begin by saying that I don't know the exact financial numbers behind 2D animation versus 3D animation. I am not privy to information like the actual time it takes to animate in 3D as opposed to 2D, or how many 3D animators are unionized as opposed to 2D animators. I don't know the exact facts and figures here, and if you know, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to learn. All I know, and all that I'll be going off of when I share my opinions here, is that it's generally understood that 3D animation is cheaper to produce than 2D animation. When I compare something like Go Fetch to something like the Plankton movie, I believe that with the former, 3D animation was what was best for the story, and the latter would have been improved if it were 2D animated instead. I went more into this in my Plankton movie video, but in a nutshell, I found that the more high-scale story, the wider environments, and the more exaggerated slapstick moments of the Plankton movie were more suited to 2D animation, which makes me think that the decision to make it 3D animated was a financial decision as opposed to a creative decision. And since it was a movie, audiences don't have as much of an expectation for it to be animated in a manner similar to the show. Go Fetch, while I think it was primarily made just because 3D animation was best for its story, I think also does exist for the sake of communicating to us that 3D art styles are going to be a part of SpongeBob moving forward. And, you know, in a lot of ways, that's fine. 3D animation, 2D animation, good art is good art. These two different types of animation animation can coexist to tell different stories. The thing I take issue with will never be the art style itself. What I do take issue with is creative decisions being made for primarily non-creative reasons. Because when creative decisions are made for non-creative reasons, they clash with the story. That was my issue with A Fish Called Sandy. Its art style didn't work with the story, and I didn't like that. It's why I didn't have an issue with Go Fetch, because while I think that it's likely that Go Fetch is intended to get the audience more used to cost-saving 3D animation, since the primary reason the episode is 3D animated is because the story was best told using 3D animation, it succeeds more as a story. Both A Fish Called Sandy and Go Fetch have been generally positively received despite the fact that they represent polar opposite kinds of animation. A Fish Called Sandy plays on our desire to see the more simple kinds of 2D animation of the past, while Go Fetch helps us reluctantly transition into embracing 3D animation. But to answer the main question this video poses, why does SpongeBob keep changing art style? I don't think the answer lies in anything drastic. The series is not going back to animating every episode in the style of season 1, like what some thought would be the case with A Fish Called Sandy. And the series is not going to start only doing 3D animation like some thought would be the case with Go Fetch. These differently animated episodes are nothing more than a long-running show experimenting with different art styles in an attempt to tell more varied stories and get more attention to their properties. And those reasons for creating something are just fine, as long as the stories are good. The most important thing, though, when doing an art style change is to make sure that the art style change is in service to the story, something that Go Fetch succeeded in and A Fish Called Sandy didn't. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, I've got a Patreon and you can become a channel member. Also, make sure to check out my gaming channel. I just did a video where I compared the SpongeBob movie GBA game to the actual movie. There are some shocking things in there. You should really check it out.